Coming up on Tech News today, Mark Zuckerberg is coding his own type of smart home. Lyft gets a $500 million lift. Oculus Rift gets a pre-sale date. And we talk all about our tech predictions for 2016. Stay tuned.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1420, recorded Monday, January 4th, 2016.
This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Epson's new EcoTank printers. With Epson's new line of SuperTank all-in-one printers, you can print thousands of documents without running out of ink. EcoTank is loaded and ready to print when you are. Visit epson.com/EcoTank to find out more.
And by FreshBooks, the super simple cloud accounting software that's giving thousands of freelancers and small businesses the tools to save time billing and get paid faster. Try it free at freshbooks.com/TNT.
And by ZipRecruiter. Are you hiring? With ZipRecruiter.com, you can post to 100+ job sites, including social networks, all with a single click. Screen rate and hire the right candidates fast. Try ZipRecruiter with a free 4-day trial now at ZipRecruiter.com/TNT.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
We're here.
Welcome to Tech News Today. This is the new Tech News Today,
That's right.
the show where we talk about technology with people who are passionate about technology.
I certainly hope so.
Yes, and I'm Megan Maroney.
And I am Jason Howell. Super thrilled to be here with you, Megan.
It's good to be here with you, too.
It's going to be an interesting journey, don't you think?
Thanks.
We're kind of like in the back room getting ready for the show, like with, sticks and fire and piecing the puzzle together, hoping that we don't burn the place down.
Yes, and we haven't yet.
And we thought, hey, it kind of makes perfect sense on our very first episode of the new year to welcome on someone you may remember. Tom Merritt, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on, you guys. This is awesome.
Are you kidding? We are honored and thrilled to have you here today.
I am as well. I'm excited to be on your inaugural episode.
We saved a spot at the front of the head of the table just
That was
for
very
you.
nice of you. Thank you.
Thought this would feel comfortable for you.
I feel surrounded by friends.
Yes, and you started this show and started my
Absolutely.
career and worked with Jason early in his career, so it makes sense.
It makes a whole lot of sense,
Yes.
I got to say.
You did it all in your owns.
Well, and also, I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this show right now are very familiar with the show that you do, Daily Tech News Show. Tell everybody about it.
Oh, yeah. So Daily Tech News Show is what it says. It's a show that's daily, and it's about tech news. And it's my attempt with Daily Tech News Show is to give you the rundown of a wide variety, worldwide. Here's the things, the prep sheet you need to know. And it's fun. I do it with different co-hosts every day, and it's a blast.
You guys do a fantastic job. Although I have to curse you a little bit, because anytime I'm trying to tell somebody, like especially in the last month since I've known that I was going to be, working with Megan on Tech News Today, I try and tell somebody who has no idea what the show is about. And inevitably I say, oh, it's a daily tech news show. And then I realize I'm actually saying your show. But that's actually the best way to describe it. So
yeah, well, when I registered the URL for that, I was just using it as a placeholder, intending to eventually change the name to something snappy, but I never did.
Right on. Well, it was obviously a good pick.
Yes,
Thanks.
and we are happy to have you here, so let's start the stories.
Let's do it.
All right, it's a new year, and we have all got our resolutions. Some of us even go so far as to proclaim them on Facebook, and Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg is no exception. Zuckerberg's past resolutions have been to meet a new person every day, learn Mandarin, and only eat things that he kills himself.
I remember that one.
Yeah, he didn't kill any people that year. It was just
Thankfully.
And this
That would've
year,
been awkward.
he's going to make his own Jarvis for his house. So I guess this is really mostly about making things. He says he's gonna look around to see what technology is already out there, and then make a personal robot inside his house. What do you think about this, Jason?
How on earth does he find the time? Seriously. I mean, he just had a kid, and I know at least as a parent, I can hardly find enough time to like get myself into the shower in the morning, let alone, be a coder, which is essentially what he's talking about here. He obviously misses being a coder. Although I'm intrigued by the idea of an automated home. I'm very curious to know if even the people behind Facebook can actually make something like that work. What do you think, Tom?
I think this is really cool that instead of saying what he could have, which is I'm going to hunt humans or something, he's getting back to basics. I mean, I think of him as a guy who created Facebook because he really liked to see what he could do with code. And this is him getting back to that idea, which is, like you say, he wants to be able to look in on his kid while she's in the room alone and have an AI tell him like, hey, you should maybe run in there and see what's going on, or have facial recognition that unlocks the door. I also don't think it's entirely just a personal project. I'm sure he's going to take what he learns here and try to deliver it back to Facebook to maybe come out with some products.
Well, a lot of what he talked about is already available, so I don't know.
Echo,
exactly.
for example, does a
Echo,
lot of this automation,
yes,
Amazon's Echo.
Right. I mean, I think of my Echo as my Jarvis. I used her this morning.
Wait a minute, you have Echo? This is an element of news that I didn't know.
Oh,
actually.
yes.
It works well
she
for you.
helped me on my 7-minute workout today. I don't know if everyone knows that, but she will help you with your resolutions. But yeah, she does a lot. But that is really, the Echo is where my home automation ends. I don't have smart lights. I don't have smart plugs. All I have is my Echo and my Siri. So I don't know. Tom, how automated is your house?
Yeah, I use an Echo for shopping lists. I keep it in the kitchen, and then I do it for news and stuff sometimes. We've got lights that turn on and off at sunset and sunrise automatically. Little bits here and there. You can use if this, then that to kind of create some recipes. But yeah, I would like to see, I don't know if I'd use it. I don't know if I'd trust it, but I'd like to see what Facebook could come up with.
I think that's it right there, right? The trust aspect of things, right? Like you're talking about at a certain time of day, these certain lights come on or they go off. And I know when I think about doing that, that seems to make a lot of sense, right? Like, for example, on my phone, you can install an app that at a certain time when it's dark enough outside, the hue of your display changes, and supposedly that's good for your circadian rhythms and all that kind of stuff. I don't turn it on, though, because I don't necessarily always want it to do that in that particular scenario. So maybe I don't want those lights to always go on when the sun goes down or something like that. So it's almost like the smart home and devising this stuff can only be so smart to automate certain things, but it can never truly know if that's what you actually want this time versus every single time. And that's where, can you really trust it to always be right? And if you can't, then my experience has been if I can't trust it to always be right, I'm probably not going to use it very much.
And do you want Facebook to know that much about you?
That's another really good point. Mm-hmm. Facebook already knows so much about you, so that would be one more piece.
Not
of
me. I lie to Facebook. So.
Okay, well that's a smart way to go about it, I suppose.
And I don't like to think about how much Amazon knows about me through my Echo, but a lot. I mean, if you go look through the app, all the questions that my kids have asked it, all those things that everything that's on the list, everything that we've said, and after following the word Alexa, Amazon knows. So I try not to think too much about it.
Well, believe me, Google knows just as much. I mean, seriously, the voice actions and everything that get fired off in my pocket all the time, whether I mean for it to happen or not, you can go online and you can see the list of all of those voice recordings and you can listen to every single one of them, and you realize just how much unintended information these companies actually get on you, let alone the intended information. It's really kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. So this buys you into that more. So let's see here. What else? General Motors has invested $500 million into the ride-hailing service Lyft, valuing that company at $4.5 billion. On top of providing the financial backing, GM will also be working with Lyft to create a network of autonomous on-demand taxi cars. Autonomous vehicle networks can be incredibly lucrative in the long run, but the big question that I have is, how do autonomous offerings really affect auto companies' kind of legacy business? Is the upside of those networks as good, if not more lucrative, when compared to that traditional model of car ownership? I only know car ownership. I've never done Lyft. I've never, taken an Uber. But man, people swear by them, and it really seems to be redefining what it means to get from point A to point B in a car. People don't feel like they have to own anymore.
Right, and that's the question of autonomous vehicles. It does seem like the Lyft, Uber step comes before everyone owning their own autonomous vehicle. It's cheaper, and it just seems like it'll ease us into it. And people who use Lyft and Uber are often people who live in big cities, not out in the country like we do with families. So it is. I think those are the people that are going to ease us into everyone having autonomous cars. But it is interesting going back to what you just said about AI. You need it to work every time. Like that's the problem with autonomous cars. You really need that to work every time.
And I think it's really prescient of GM to be making steps towards this already, because they know that if this becomes popular, car sales are going to decline. And the way they're going to sell cars is to sell it into the people running the systems. It's also smart for Lyft, instead of doing what Uber's doing and creating an entire laboratory where they're hiring people away from Carnegie Mellon, Lyft can actually say, well, we'll let General Motors do the research on this and then be able to benefit from it. And we'll provide the ride-sharing aspect and the scheduling aspect of it. So it's a good match for these two companies, I think.
But, are they just trying to really come out ahead? Because, there's also the rumor that Google and Ford are going to make an announcement at CES. And whatever that announcement is that going to be just like so much of a bigger deal than General Motors and Lyft?
Everybody wants to dance with Google on the self-driving cars, I would imagine.
That's true.
So this could indicate that GM had to settle. On the other hand, though, you could see a world where GM partners with Lyft and Google. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but Google's providing the tech platform. GM could provide the cars. Lyft could still provide part of the ride-sharing service. It sounds like Google is doing the ride-sharing service too, which is why you're not seeing them partner up with somebody like that.
Yeah, that's right. It wasn't too long ago that there was some sort of an app that kind of emerged. I can't remember if it was in India or where. It was another part of the world, but where it was Google getting specifically into this sort of thing, and Google, Tesla, Uber, all investing into research into kind of this distributed network of taxi cabs running on their own. So everybody's kind of trying to crack this nut. It also kind of removes some of the obviously it's autonomous vehicles, removes the human element from the kind of pains of the taxi cab industry, right? Like, aside from the fact that you might not want to necessarily talk to the person that's in there, hiring, retaining those people, on the side of the taxi cab companies, I suppose that's a pretty big deal, pretty big draw.
Well, that's what I always hear when we talk about stories about Uber and their class action lawsuit against their drivers and whether drivers are employees or not. I always think that in the back of their mind, it's just like, well, the drivers are on their way out anyway. We're talking about robot cars soon enough, so let's just get through this until that's the end game for them.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but it does sound, reading these stories about the partnership with Lyft, like it sounds really nice. They talk about of the ride experience, like you can get an autonomous vehicle that would take your family to Tahoe, and then it'd come with like family movies already built in. And the idea of I just got back from a very long road trip with my family, and the idea of not having to ever be at the wheel sounds pretty nice.
It would change that dynamic, huh? I will tell this car to turn around.
Yeah. That's a good one. Yes. So let's move on. Last year was huge for Microsoft. This year they're hoping for more of the same. This morning they announced that Windows 10 is now running on more than 200 million devices worldwide. Now this includes non-PC devices like Xbox Ones. And this sounds great, but I'm not even really sure what all these figures mean. I don't really know that many people that run Windows anymore. And then, of course, there's the mobile. I hardly know anyone that runs Windows 10 on mobile. So what do you guys think these numbers really mean?
I think you compare it to, okay, so let me preface this by saying I am not a Windows phone user. I'm an Android device user, and I haven't used a whole lot of Windows mobile devices. But I do know that the history of Windows prior to 10 was very on again, off again, and it really seems like Windows 10 has been a big turning point for Microsoft, for them to have kind of a milestone of this regard. Like, these are big numbers, right? August 2015, 75 million users, and that was just PCs, right? And now you've got Windows 10 on Xbox One, running on some Lumia phones, just the Windows Phone in general, up to 200 million. Like, that's an insane jump. And by any account, that means that Windows 10 is already a pretty early success. I don't know. Where do you stand? What do you think, Mike? Tom?
I look at this and I think you can if you're an anti-Microsoft person, you could spin it to be, well, they're including Xbox numbers to try to beef this up, and it's a failure.
That's
and it's
true.
growing slowly. And look at the big percentage of people still on Windows 7 or still on Windows XP. But if you're pro Microsoft, you can say, well, this is a 400% faster uptake than Windows 7 had, or actually, I think than Windows 7 than Windows 8 had. I think it's only 100% plus, 170% faster than Windows 7. But in either case, you've got faster uptake, even with a little bit of goosing of the numbers. Frankly, I look at this. I looked at Mary Jo Foley's write-up of this. I looked at Paul's write-up of this, and it seems like this is exactly what you should expect. It's not a failure. It's not a booming success, unexpected success. It's a solid version of Windows being adopted by people.
But it's free. I mean, it's also the first one that's free, right? So it's like
the
to
upgrade,
compare
right?
that to like you had to, well, I'm not going to upgrade to Windows 7 because I have to pay for it. I'm not going to, I'm going to stay on Windows XP till they pry it out of my cold, dead hands because I don't want to pay to upgrade. But you don't. I mean, from Windows 7, you don't. So like that's the other thing. It's like, well, of course, there's this big numbers, increase because no one was paying for it.
Not to mention the update is something that, by and large, people have heard about Windows 10 and actually want to update to it versus, having that fear of being
updated to it without
Well,
meaning to because they pressed OK on a dial. So
that is known to happen as well. Yeah,
Right.
the adding of other platforms and not just PCs actually reminds me of, Google kind of did this with Android, right? I think their initiative, not sure if it was last year's I/O, was all the screens. And so you started to see, the same version of Android rolled out on not just phones and tablets, as you expect, but also Android TV and also, all these other places, Android Auto. And, my thought then was this is an interesting way to make sure that your Android install base seems a lot bigger and more impressive than what people are used to referring to it as, which is, in this case, just a PC or whatever. Adding Xbox in there is kind of brilliant when you think about it because Xbox One is a pretty darn successful platform and it might not have the same crossover. There might not be as many Windows 10 users on a PC with an Xbox. They might be using a different computer.
Right.
It's still a small number. It's not going to make the huge difference in the adoption. That's why I still look at this and I think like, yeah, even free, even with the Xbox counted, it's a very healthy but not insanely surprising number of adoptions. And this is going to get weirder because Windows 10 is it. Like every version will be Windows 10. So we'll have to be slicing the numbers by, well, what service packs have they added? But Microsoft is only going to allow you to go so long without updating to the latest, and they're not called service packs anymore, but to the latest security patches and the latest updates. So it's going to be harder to tell in the future how people are adopting because Microsoft's making an effort to keep everybody up to date.
Either that or for the next however many years, we just keep increasing that number forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
Finally, we're at 5 billion 20 years later.
Yeah, and
The Zuckerberg bot is running on Windows 10.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think mobile is such a big deal here too because I think we were promised this amazing Windows 10 on mobile experience and it hasn't been delivered. And I do think that there will be a time where people just want to be running the same thing on their device and whether it's Windows 10 running on mobile or on their desktop or it's iOS and running OS 10. I think people are going to want that. And I don't see it. I was hiking over the holidays and, someone asked me to take their picture with their phone and it was a Windows phone. And I was like, oh my goodness, look at that. Like a Windows phone in the wild. And he said, do you want to buy it? I said,
Oh, no.
No.
Oh, no.
so yeah, I don't know. So they're interesting numbers. So we should take a minute now to thank the first sponsor of this episode. This episode is brought to you by Epson. Epson's revolutionary EcoTank line of printers for home and office introduce a new age in printing. The new EcoTank ET4550 wireless all-in-one printer doesn't use ink cartridges. Instead, it features an innovative refillable ink tank. It comes with enough ink to print up to 8,500 pages. That's equivalent to about 50 ink cartridge sets. You're loaded and ready to print for up to 2 years. Powered by Epson's leading-edge precision core technology, it delivers high-speed, vivid colors, and laser-quality black text. plus auto two-sided printing, a 30-page auto document feeder, and easy wireless printing from tablets and smartphones. All EcoTank printers deliver an unbeatable combination of convenience and value with ultra-low-cost replacement ink bottles. Now you have the freedom to print without running out of ink. Visit Epson.com/EcoTank today to transform the way your home, office, or work group prints. For the best combination of ease and value, turn to the new Epson EcoTank printers. That's EPSON.com/EcoTank. And we thank Epson for their support.
Thank you, Epson. All right. Up next, we want to try something out. We're kind of playing around with ideas for the new format of this show. And one of the things that we kind of want to do is we want to go diving a little bit deeper into segments that focus on a particular grouping or angle of technology. For example, let's talk about some of today's virtual reality news. This stuff kind of gets me excited. I love this. I love what's going on in VR right now. One of the most eagerly awaited VR solutions so far has been the Oculus Rift. It was initially confirmed back in the middle of last year as having its release in the first quarter of 2016. And now we have an announcement of an announcement. Thanks to Facebook's Oculus blog, starting this Wednesday, January 6th at 11 a.m. Eastern, the Oculus Rift will go up for pre-sale. No pricing or ship date yet. Those are going to be revealed when pre-sale kicks off in a couple of days. The downside here is that the Oculus Touch motion controller is being pushed back to allow for some tweaks to and improvements to its motion tracking and some of the ergonomic kind of features prior to the release. So I'm excited for this. I don't know what it is about VR right now, but I find myself getting really kind of pumped up, and I'm at least happy with the fact that it seems like the Oculus Rift is going to get a release on time and isn't going to be moved anymore. Does this excite you guys?
I have not tried any VR except for smartphone VR. And that was fine.
Like cardboard?
Cardboard. And I tried another one that was called Noon. It was fine. It wasn't like, it didn't blow me away in any way. I'm more fascinated with just the, is it going to happen now or is it going to happen now? And I like to see, I like to, see all the announcements, but I don't know. What do you think, Tom? You've probably been following this closer than I have.
Yeah, I like the idea of it. I think, and Palmer Luckey has even started to socialize people to the idea that the first Rifts are going to be for gamers. They're going to be for hardcore uses. Even though there are other uses being created for them, they will, in fact, require a pretty powerful machine. I imagine this thing's going to be pretty expensive. I think it's going to be more expensive than the dev kits were. And I think it's meant to get somebody who's cutting edge, somebody who's an early adopter to try. It's not meant for the masses yet. I think HTC Vive, on the other hand, is going to try to appeal to the masses, and I wonder what kind of success they'll have. The reviews are amazing. Everybody who tries it says they love it, so it may work. But this is going to be virtual reality, not just 360-degree video, and I think it's a whole different set of expectations and capabilities that people will be able to finally see for sure once they can get it in homes or a friend's home than the cardboard and things like that.
Well, what about this VR that takes up your whole room, like the room size VR, like that kind of stuff is interesting to me. And I was listening to you had a whole predictions show on Daily Tech News Show, and that was one of the predictions that there were going to be people building rooms in their house just for VR.
Oh, I see it. I totally see it.
Yes,
crazy.
Like hardcore gamers, like you say, they're totally going to do that.
Enough rooms in my house for my children. So what is?
If you could afford the computer and the Rift, you can afford the extra room, I guess, is the theory. I don't know.
Yeah, you've got the McMansion. You've got that room in the basement. That you've been wondering what you're going to do with it. You already have your game room. Now you have your VR game room. It makes total sense to me. Yeah, you need the computer, obviously, with the Oculus Rift, so that's going to be a cost. The Rift itself is probably going to be pretty darn expensive. So as far as the controller is concerned, with a deal with Microsoft, instead of getting their fancy controller, you're going to get the Xbox One controller there. So you have something, at least you have something right out of the box to play around with. And yeah, I mean, as for pricing right now, I mean, it's hard to make a guess. Current Rift, which is the second iteration of the dev kit, the DK2, sells around for $350, obviously intended for developers. So this would potentially be a different scenario than that. And I'm hoping that maybe Facebook would subsidize the hardware. That's what I'm really hoping, because this, obviously Oculus is a Facebook company, and Facebook has plans to expand VR beyond probably just gaming. They've even mentioned, integrating the Facebook experience into VR, which I can't understand, but I'm intrigued.
Swipe right.
Yes, I know, right? Like scroll.
You just nod.
Yes, exactly. Scroll.
The dev kits at $350 seem really cheap. And usually when you sell a dev kit, you sell it for more. So the theory would be that this thing's going to be less than $350. I think it's going to be more like above $1,000.
Yeah.
And so what about Magic Leap? That's another one that we've heard a lot about and we've seen videos and, they have a lot of investment. But what do you think about their future?
I can't wait for it. Right? Like, sure. Like everybody who says they've seen it says it's amazing. But yeah, I'll bring it on. Sounds amazing to me. I love the idea that I don't have to wear a hood, though, that I could have it just projected onto my eyes and do augmented reality or virtual reality all in the same space.
So the other thing with virtual reality is that a lot of people talk about the health concerns. There's like, oh, I got seasick, and but then the Wall Street Journal also had an article today about what it does to your body and mind. Just the kind of like how scary, how can these games like really scare us when we really believe that we're in there? Like what are the ethics there? So I think that was an interesting thing because I've definitely heard all the like, oh, well, they're getting better about it, less motion sickness and all that. But what about this? I mean, what are the ethics of like living in these virtual worlds?
Yeah, we haven't really experienced very, very much, at least at this point, what it's like to trick our brains into something. You know what I mean? Like to use our eyes and our senses, for what we hear and to make a world that's believable enough. And even though we know it's not real, our brains are tricked to the point to where there's some sort of psychological or physiological reaction, good or bad, right? Tom, you've heard me mention the movie Strange Days a million times. You had to know I was going to bring it up here. But it's kind of the same thing, right? Like people can probably come up with some really kind of disturbing things to do with VR, and how does that affect your brain when you drive off the edge of a cliff and you actually experience that? You're going to be okay. You know that you could take the goggles off, but to a certain degree, you're like short kind of canceling the fuse in your brain and tricking it. And what is the effect of that?
I mean, on the one hand, I think it's very responsible to investigate these things because it's new technology and we don't know exactly what effects it might have. And so we should be aware of that and investigate it. On the other hand, part of it seems to me like the people who saw a movie with a train for the first time all ducking. Yeah, right. And eventually we realized, we figured out our brains are adaptable and they start to know. I feel like people are more likely to look back at this generation of VR and laugh at how unbelievable it is in the future than to cause like strange diseases. Or it'll be something more like 3D movies where some people might get a little nauseous. So maybe it's not for everyone. You'll have to have some warnings and some, be careful about who uses it and when, and just like with strobing lights or anything else. But I don't expect it to be shown to have devastating effects or anything like that.
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting the connection between Oculus and Facebook because a lot of people would say that, like, a lot of people are just spending so much time on Facebook. They're already in a virtual world. I looked at your pictures from your trip to Hawaii and I thought, like, I felt like I was there, kind of thing. So yeah, I think.
Must have been Eileen.
3D VR pictures from Hawaii?
No, they were just. Right. I'm talking about just pictures, just having a screen that you're looking at and forgetting the rest of your life. That might have more damage to us psychologically. Just having the device that we carry around that we're like sort of scrolling through other people's lives. That might be worse than putting the goggles on.
Again, it feels to me like comic books and television were going to ruin kids' lives. And we had to learn how to responsibly use these things. And you can argue that we still haven't 100% learned it, but it didn't ruin society, arguably. We've done that in other ways. I'm usually pretty Pollyanna-ish about this stuff, but I feel like it's good to pay attention to those things, but not to fear them, I guess.
And not to avoid them specifically out of that fear, and not invest more time in research. And that's exactly what we're looking at here.
And if we have VR, we can ruin our society, and then we'll have the virtual world to live in anyway.
It doesn't matter. We'll create a society of bubblegum and
I do that in SimCity
balloons.
all the time.
Yeah, see, there you go. Another thing that can possibly deter users from completely embracing VR are kind of what we've already talked about a little bit, those hardware requirements, namely the need for high-powered machines that can crunch all that data and do, you know, all that computational power, because it's a pretty taxing environment for sure. NVIDIA announced today its GeForce VR-ready labeling system to alert consumers of certified hardware from partners like Alienware, EVGA, Falcon Northwest, Main Gear, and Amazon and Newegg are also going to pass along that branding. So when you're on the site, you'll know. That baseline requirement for VR Ready does satisfy the minimum spec requirements for the Oculus Rift. So maybe at least with this, I'm sure we're going to see a number of these kinds of things come out. I'm sure NVIDIA isn't the only one coming up with, you know, branding to tell you it's VR ready. But I think it's a good thing, right? Because ultimately, I feel like VR has the potential to be a really big deal in the eyes of consumers, but there are so many roadblocks right now, technologically and cost prohibitively, and so things like this at least take a little bit of that mystery out of it, and I think that's a good thing. Sure.
Yeah, I look at this as like the Intel Inside stickers or Windows
Exactly what it
ready
is.
machines, where it might goose sales a little bit from people who don't read specs, but especially at this part of VR's generation, I think most people who want to buy it are just going to buy a machine that they know can run it, whether it's got the sticker or not.
This generation especially, because they're enthusiasts enough
Totally.
that they actually care to look into it and know exactly what hardware they would need, whether there's a sticker on it or not. I want it. I want it, but I know I'm not an enthusiast enough to like go in there and do the work that's required to make sure that I have the hardware that's designed to do it. So maybe that's why I see this and I'm like, okay,
That's
cool.
what
Thanks for telling me.
Oculus should just bundle it, like give you
Yes.
the option when you pre-order. Like, we'll just sell you an Alienware machine too. Why not?
Now, what about the HTC Vive? Does it have a computer that it pairs to, or do we even know this at this point? Because I will say HTC Vive was the VR solution that hit in the past 6 to 8 months that kind of changed my thinking on VR, where I was like, okay, suddenly I'm actually really excited about this and I don't know why. Does it have the computer attachment requirement in the same way that Oculus does? I'm not quite sure we know the answer to this, but
I do not.
there's a lot about the HTC Vive that we actually don't know at this point as well. So maybe that's something that we'll find out soon enough.
Yeah, I guess there'll be more announcements at CES too.
Speaking of CES, CES 2016 kind of underway right now. It's like pre-CES at this point, but reporters, journalists are there. Our father, Robert Ballecer, is there with a crew. We're going to be checking in with him over the next few days to kind of see what he's seeing and experiencing while at CES. He's experiencing the con sickness so that we don't have to. But we do have a few neat things that have appeared over the last 12 hours or so. Number one, Volvo is working with Ericsson. I know, don't tune out. To design a media streaming platform that's built with autonomous vehicles in mind. This includes a gigantic embedded video screen in place of the passenger glove box that kind of pivots out. It unhides itself when you need to watch. Your commute time, this is, I think, is kind of the cool part. Your commute time can be tweaked so that you get to your destination right at the time that the show ends. So like you're driving around in your autonomous vehicle is not, I need to get from point A to point B. It's, I need 20 minutes to watch Modern Family. And when I'm done, I want to be over there now.
Right.
So it's like a moving living room.
That's autonomous technology that has its priorities straight. I'd
Yeah,
say.
I'd say so.
So wait, so this is going to create the Netflix lane on the highway?
One would hope.
Slow.
If it doesn't get totally and completely obliterated by Congress and everything in their race to make sure that anybody riding in an autonomous vehicle must actually also have their eyes on the road and not
That's
watching
going to happen
the screen.
for a while.
So
That'll go away, but
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the standard for adoption to begin with, just to make everybody feel better.
sure.
Right, but it is interesting. I mean, when they've been testing the autonomous cars, and Google is testing it with people, like they found that people just they stop paying attention if they think
You
for
feel
a
like
minute
you don't
that they
need
don't
to.
have
I
to.
can't. I
Yeah.
have to imagine that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think this is interesting. I mean, we were talking about this story earlier, and I saw Volvo, Ericsson, like, snoozer, boring. But then I thought, oh, yeah, like being able to really, like, time your Netflix watching with your commute seemed amazing to me. But it is one of those things at CES that, will we ever see it?
Yeah, who knows? But you don't, being a couch potato just isn't, limited to your living room now. You can be a couch potato on the road.
Exactly. Yeah. So number 2 is the new Family Hub refrigerator from Samsung. I thought this was a joke. I thought the smart refrigerator from Samsung, that's the big joke at CES and then
they always have that,
got the press release and I thought, well, this is a real thing. It's got this giant touchscreen. It has 4 beautiful doors, but you don't even have to open the doors anymore. You can just look on the screen, see what food you have in there, see if it's spoiling. There's no price on this yet, but I think it's going to be more expensive than anyone's going to probably want to spend it on it. I want it. I just want someone else to buy it for me.
I mean, since 1998, CES has been proving that we all want technology in our refrigerators.
We want our refrigerator to tell us what's inside it, what's spoiling, and what can I make with the things that are in there. And we still aren't there.
Well, that's what's interesting about, I was looking up because I remember we went to CES, Tom, back in the Tech TV days. I think it was 2000. It might have been 2001 or 2003. It was one of those years.
Two, yeah.
It didn't matter. It was all the same thing. And you look at it, and it's sort of the same thing. It's like wireless technology and digital music and home networking. It's like we wouldn't use, I think we were using the phrase home networking like it was
big
something
TVs.
Amazing. But yeah, it was still the big TVs. There was already the smart home. There was all of those things. It's just like we move at a snail's pace and we don't really know what we want, and we know what we like to read about in tech news, and that's the smart refrigerator that shows you when your food spoils. But is it what we really want or need?
Yeah, I feel like the one thing that changed since back then is that we were still skeptical about Bluetooth. And now we're not. We definitely know we use Bluetooth.
Mm-hmm. That's the one thing.
That's the one
in
thing
the last
that
decade
changed.
that we've learned.
Yeah.
Do we know that Bluetooth isn't actively spoiling our food while we're away, though? That's a study that I want to see the results to. There must be. Number 3, while many have ditched their Chrome desktop efforts, Chrome OS on a desktop machine, Acer marches forth, this time with the new Chromecast, or Chrome OS, that's a typo, 24, an all-in-one with a 23.8-inch 1080p display, up to 8 gigs of RAM, and an optional tilting touch screen, so you can get a touch screen or not, depending on how you choose. It's also the first Chrome base to feature Intel Core processors, no pricing or availability as of yet. I happen to love Chrome OS. I'm not using one right now, but I have a Chromebook Pixel, and I love it. I don't know if I necessarily need it in a desktop form factor, though, but I guess everybody's use is different. And that's one thing we're realizing about Chrome OS is some people, that is perfect. Maybe you do want it on a desktop. I don't know. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, the one thing Justin Robert Young and I were talking about with this is it's cool now that here are our new Chromebooks, not, ooh, look, we are trying Chrome.
Yes.
Like it's become a legitimate operating system for devices.
Yeah, fair enough. Case in point, number 4, Lenovo is showing off a new 13-inch ThinkPad called, the ThinkPad 13. What's interesting here is it comes with your choice of Windows or Chrome OS, and it's priced at $399 with a June release. The Chrome OS variant will not have ThinkPad's characteristic little red nub in the center of the keyboard because Chrome OS doesn't have support for that, as well as a few of kind of like the multi-touch things on the touchpad. So there are a few differences. Each model has differing I/O port configurations, but otherwise pretty similar specs on the inside. So if you
I take it all back. If you can't support the classic red nub, the operating system is doomed.
Seriously, step it up. Step it up, Google.
We want the nub. And some of that Superfish spyware. If you could throw that in, then I might buy it.
I could have some Superfish for dinner.
Classic Superfish spyware.
Number 5 is just CES in general. Do we need a smarter blender? That was like the first thing I saw when I opened up my web browser today and looked at CES. It was like the smart blender story, which, I mean, when I make a smoothie, I just throw stuff in. Like, I don't want it to connect to an app. I don't need it to connect to a kitchen scale. Please don't complicate my smoothie, CES. I am fine with just stuffing everything in there and blending it and calling it a day.
Spinach.
Yes, spinach. That's why you don't want to know what's in there. That's why you blend it all up, right? So you can't see that there's spinach in there that you're eating. So I don't know. It's just like in general, it's sort of with the smart fridge or the smart scale or the smart everything. And maybe I'm just an old person, but I get a little bit annoyed with CES. I want to see something more practical and less smart.
Are we over smartifying things?
Oh, yes.
All right, well, there you go.
There's always like one or two really interesting products out of all of CES because when that many companies come together, you're bound to have something interesting show up. But all the stories are usually about like these headline grabbing things like a smart blender or a smart refrigerator or another rollable display that'll never ship from somebody. So it's easy to get lost in the fluff, I think.
Mm-hmm. I just really, like you said, want to throw my fruit in the blender, be done, carry on with my day. I don't need any computing power kind of associated into that process. But hey, my needs don't match other people's needs. Maybe they need a computer.
And I'm not. And I think CES is fun. Las Vegas is fun, and
you do?
I do not. I mean, I thought it was fun in 2001 or whatever.
I don't know.
But I just don't. I don't judge the people that are like having a great time, meeting the people that they tweet with and that they work with and stuff, and having coffee, and then thinking like, I have got to write something. I'm going to write about that smart blender, and then go back out. That's totally fine.
Don't worry. They're going to come home and they're going to go back to work and they're going to get the con sickness. Right. So if they wrote a story about that product that you just don't care about, that's your payback. And you don't have to worry about that because you're not there.
No, I'm not there. No, we send the priest there so that.
Yeah, please don't bring back the con sickness priest. Father Robert, take care of us, please. Let's take a minute to thank the second sponsor of this episode, brought to you by FreshBooks. You're a freelancer or you run a small business, chances are your least favorite part is rummaging through receipts, trying to keep track of your expenses, maybe creating, formatting, and sending invoices, and the worst, just tracking down those customers who don't pay you on time. FreshBooks is the super simple cloud accounting software that's giving thousands of businesses like yours the tools to save time billing and get paid faster. If you're not a numbers person, you can get started super easy on FreshBooks. It couldn't be easier. You'll be creating and sending invoices in minutes. You get paid up front, so you can request a deposit inside FreshBooks. No more covering costs out of pocket or waiting until the end of a project to get paid. FreshBooks takes care of all this stuff for you and kind of holds your hand and guides you through it and just provides it in a very simple way. It lets you organize your expenses easily. You can track your time almost instantly, even on your mobile device. You can do it from your phone. With our automated late payment reminders, you can avoid those awkward emails to late paying clients. And with FreshBooks automated customer reviews report, you can see all of your reviews in one place. Then you can just easily post them to your website. Plus, FreshBooks just announced their new card reader. Now you can easily accept credit cards wherever business takes you, quickly and securely, right from your iPhone in less than a minute. FreshBooks card reader is EMV, that's chip card enabled, the new standard in the US. It works right out of the box. You just open your invoice from the FreshBooks app, plug in the reader, dip the chip, swipe the stripe. So much fun to say. You'll wonder why you didn't start with FreshBooks sooner. If you have questions, help is free forever, and you can always count on FreshBooks award-winning support rock stars to go above and beyond whenever you need a hand. All right, getting started is simple and is totally free for 30 days. Go to freshbooks.com/TNT. Don't forget to enter tech news today in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Start your 30-day free trial today, and we thank FreshBooks for supporting this episode of Tech News Today. All right, what do you think? what do we call this? Is this the blurbs? Is this what we're going with?
We were coming up with segment ideas, and we thought we need to do just a section with some blurbs, and then we thought let's call it the blurbs because blurbs is fun to say.
That, and it kind of reminds me of Tom Hanks, The Burbs.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's not even that was a really good movie, but it reminds me of that and makes me chuckle a little bit. And so yes, the blurbs. See,
right, like the
makes
things
sense.
that are a little bit outside of the main, main important stories, but still worth talking about.
Things we should talk about.
Yes,
just a
here's
little
the first one. The Wi-Fi Alliance announced today a new standard. It's a low-powered Wi-Fi for Internet of Things. It's called Halo. That's HALOW. It is not pronounced hello, as I thought maybe it would be. Like hello. It's Halo. And it's essentially it has better range for less power. We've already talked a little bit about Internet of Things. And, as I was talking to Leo earlier, I was trying to do my 7-minute workout with my Alexa this morning. And then my husband started using the microwave, and then the Wi-Fi went off. And then Alexa had to stop, and it was devastating. So yeah, I'm interested as I build my own Internet of Things home. I am very interested in getting a better Wi-Fi for it.
Well, Halo operates in the 900 megahertz range, which is exactly the same range as microwaves.
Well, Leo said I need to get a 5 gigahertz modem, right?
Yeah. But Halo will not operate in the 5 gigahertz range. So, but yeah, get a 5 gigahertz router, and that should get you around most of the microwave.
Well, maybe I just need to get a smart fridge and live in it.
And then get Master Chief.
I just want to put everything on Ethernet. All my wearables, everything, just dragging cords around.
That would be good. Plug in in all corners.
Yeah, where is the Ethernet cable for my Apple Watch? That is what's missing from this.
Be so much more reliable.
And a little bit thicker. Twitter just entered the hardware business by investing in Music, M-U-Z-I-K, so you know. It's a company with an as-yet unreleased connected headphone that should compete, at least in price, with Apple-owned Beats branded headphones. $299, shipping in May. It has these really big buttons on the outside of the thing for adjusting your volume, your track playback, and of course, because it's Twitter, sharing to social networks. There you go.
What do you share? The music you're listening to?
Yes.
You push the button and tweet. I'm listening to
They're
Adele.
social sharing headphones.
Okay. I don't know what Twitter's doing. Headphones, that's crazy to me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Everybody's getting in the headphone
Everybody's
game.
buying headphones.
Yeah.
Apple's buying
That's what you do.
Well, Apple, it makes sense because
I want to do insta correction. 900 megahertz, I was confused, was the original spec for microwaves. They're in the 2.4 gigahertz, which is why you have the problem. So maybe this will help.
Right. Okay. Good to know. Thank you for correcting that. And speaking of wireless headphones and Bluetooth headphones, that was the other thing that I remember being amazed about back in a decade ago at CES. It was wireless headphones. Those are, and I'm still.
That's never going to happen.
But I'm still a little amazed by wireless headphones.
Yeah.
I have to say, they're still, that is useful
I still
technology.
have yet to move over. I can't let go of my wires. It's a sickness.
Oh no! When I'm running, I totally use Bluetooth headphones. So because I used to hit the wire while I was jogging.
Yeah.
You don't run,
out
do you,
my
Jason?
Phone. Ugh.
I don't run.
Jason doesn't run unless I chase him. So,
so when you're being chased by Megan, you want to have Bluetooth headphones.
All right, I'll think about it. Thank you. You've convinced me.
Okay. Today, Intel announced that it is buying Ascending Technologies. That's a company that makes drones and the software to fly them. Intel has worked with Ascending before on Sense and Avoid technology and RealSense camera technology also. There's no news on whether you can buy an Intel drone anytime soon or ever.
Wow.
Yeah, well, Ascending Technologies does avoidance, where they automatically detect objects and try not to run into them, which is a really good thing for
That's a great thing for
UAVs.
drones. Yeah.
And they use Intel technology, like RealSense, in that already, so it makes perfect sense for Intel to buy them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want my drone to avoid things, and I want drones, other people's drones, to avoid me. So
exactly.
I love this story.
T-Mobile's Binge On, autocorrected to Bing On. That's a totally different service.
Bing on the side.
Who writes this stuff? Come on.
I don't know. Yeah, right. We need to fire the person that wrote this script. T-Mobile's Binge On video service gives customers unlimited data for video streaming from certain approved services. We heard about it last month. It's now under fire from the EFF, the Electronic Frontier Foundation. It says that T-Mobile isn't merely optimizing down to 480p resolution, as it claims, but is in fact throttling, bringing with it kind of unintended consequences as a result, things like stuttering video playback. And this throttling isn't being applied to, or is rather being applied to all HTML5 video streams, not just those who have agreed to participate. Now you can opt out. This is, you're opted in, I think, by default, and you can opt out. And you know, whether you find this service valuable or not, or you feel like it kind of enters into that world of net neutrality or not, I suppose you have the option to do something about it. But it really seems like T-Mobile is just kind of going overboard with how they're applying this.
Well, it's just easier, right?
Yeah, I
You just
suppose
make
so,
it
right?
Full video 480p, and then you exempt from the data caps certain ones that are really popular, so you can put it in the press release.
Yeah.
I fully expect Comcast to get on board with this wording and say, oh, no, we're not throttling you. We're optimizing you.
Optimizing brings with it an expectation of working better, though, right? So when things start stuttering and everything, I don't know. I don't know if that works for me.
According to the information, Facebook has figured out a way to bypass the Google App Store to deliver updates on Android phones. Now, Facebook can also accept in-app payments outside of the store. So I'm not really sure I understand the story. I think they did this just in case Google decides that it won't let Facebook update its app anymore. Is that what they're afraid of?
Yeah, but best case, worst case scenario, Facebook has its the future of its app in its hands, I guess would be the easy way to summarize.
Yeah, then the big controversy is they're being accused of breaking Android apps for some people to see what they would do. Would they stop using Facebook, or would they just move to the web version of Facebook as a study? And Facebook's gotten some hot water for experimenting on their audience before.
Interesting. I had missed that. Little factoid, fact of note, probably about 2 weeks ago, I uninstalled the Facebook app and started using Facebook on the web on my phone. And I got to say, my battery life is amazing. I don't know if it's totally related, but it's really hard to say that it isn't completely. So that's interesting that you mentioned that.
Yeah, that is, I mean, Facebook, I think, as I mentioned before, I traveled to Montana in a car and we went in and out of access. And it's like Facebook just, it's like they're trying so hard to push everything they can, So
Everything.
I feel like Facebook it gets any Wi-Fi, it finds it and gets it. And it just works harder than any other app to get me my Facebook drug of choice.
I mean, I suppose when you are as big as Facebook, you have to kind of take this consideration into your hands, right? If suddenly you are given less options on how to distribute your app or whatever, you don't want to be kind of tied into any particular entity, such as Google, let's say, through the Play Store. So I suppose it makes sense to have some sort of ulterior.
Or if you were planning on putting out a phone that didn't use the Google Play options but was Android-based, and you wanted to make sure that Facebook app worked on it, or you're working with somebody who's doing that, or you're working with a lot of Chinese developers who do that. I mean, there's all kinds of things here. Yeah.
Yeah. Facebook phone. Will that ever work?
Never.
If they ever try it. If they ever happen to try it. Check it out. Aliens are like you and me. A clay phone that fits in the palm of your hand, just like your old Nokia candy bar phone with buttons that resemble cuneiform characters, was discovered during an archaeological dig in Austria dated around 13th century BCE. Do you believe? I don't know that I do. I mean, look at that thing. Like
it's Ashurbanipal's Nokia.
Alien life forms traveled to the year 1999 and got a phone, took it back, duplicated, and put on some characters that the folks could understand. I don't know, but it does really look like one, doesn't it?
It really does. To our modern eyes.
Yes,
I would look
that's
at
true.
an old picture. I did this as a Throwback Thursday one time. I had a picture of my dad and my mom and my brother and my sister that I'd taken with my little disc camera, if that dates it for you. And my dad appears to be holding like a Samsung Galaxy Note. Like, it's amazing. Like, you have no idea, like, what could that possibly be? It's definitely a phone. And it turns out somebody looked at it and said, I think it's an old map case. And they sent a picture of it from another angle. And that's probably what he had.
Interesting.
But we pattern recognition.
Yeah, but we know for a fact this is a Nokia. So
Well, right. Of course, obviously.
Yeah, it's cute. I mean, I think if I am going to give up my smartphone in any sort of New Year's resolution, I need to be more, in the world. I'm going to just carry one of those around just to feel.
It does make me wonder what things were created back then that we haven't realized would make a really good form factor for a phone now. Because had we figured that out, based on what they just discovered like 5 years before, we'd made a lot of money.
What were you thinking? Like something that you could
That
on your...
prior art?
Yes, possibly so.
Next, we have a bit of a sad story. According to Variety, Yahoo has shut down Yahoo Screen. That's the 2-year-old video streaming hub that was home to shows like Community after they got kicked from NBC. I don't think this is really that much of a surprise. I mean, all of December, we were just like, what's Yahoo going to do next? They're spinning off. They're spinning in. It just does seem like if you work for Yahoo or if you have something that you really love that is a Yahoo property, just prepare yourself. That's all I'm saying.
It is kind of sad, though. All right. Hey, another part of the show that we want to kind of have be a regular segment, and has always been, I think, since Tom created TNT, the fans have been a part of the show. We want to continue that. So you can always send your email to tnt@twit.tv. Leave us a voicemail, 260-TNT show. You can send us an email like Derek from Inverness, Scotland. Am I saying that right? Is it Inverness or Inverness?
Inverness.
Okay, Inverness. He says, Happy New Year. Megan and Jason, just thought I would throw in some 2016 predictions. Okay, so he threw in a lot of predictions. I'm not going to read them all, but I broke them down into a couple that we can kind of bat around a little bit. His Microsoft prediction that I chose, Microsoft will put HoloLens on hold.
Wah, wah.
What do you think? Yay or nay?
No, I say nay.
Nay.
Not putting it on hold. I didn't think so either. It's a bold prediction.
But I mean, I think he's saying that because they sort of they never promised anything last January. But then they said in the Windows 10 lifespan, which as we discussed earlier
eternal.
is forever.
Windows 10 is eternal, basically.
But then they just said, oh well, here's the developer's kit is coming out first. But they have to do that. Otherwise, what would we do on HoloLens?
True. Apple will kill off the Mac Mini. No.
Not kill off.
Spin it out?
They so rarely kill off.
Yeah, that's true. That would be admitting something that they don't want to admit about a current product. Apple iPhone 7 will ditch the home button and use AMOLED screens.
Maybe.
Get rid of the home button?
Why would they do that?
Is this
Because they hate buttons.
They do hate buttons.
They've always hated buttons.
Okay, so that's a no from Megan. It's a maybe from Tom. I don't know if I buy it. I don't know if I buy any of these, to be honest. I just thought they were kind of funny. Google Chromebooks will run all Android apps, and the Chrome OS UI will become more touchscreen friendly. I think that
one seems fairly reasonable.
That seems, pretty reasonable, actually. I don't know if this is the year where Chrome OS and Android necessarily merge in the way that people are talking about them merging, but we're definitely inching closer and closer to that. We keep seeing that
maybe
happen.
not all Android apps, but a majority, possibly.
Yeah. Amazon will ditch the Amazon App Store for Google Play so their tablet line can benefit from the full suite of apps available on Google Play. Hell no.
No, I think that, Jeff Bezos would not do that.
Not
the Jeff Bezos I know.
Maybe he should. But
yes, exactly. That might be the thing we want to see, but that doesn't mean it's actually going to happen. HTC will be sold to Huawei. It's interesting. I don't know the financial aspect of that prediction necessarily.
That's a good shot in the dark sort of thing, right?
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought.
For one thing, HTC would have to flounder even more, and the Vive might extend their survivability a little bit. But Huawei's not a bad suitor. Yeah, possibly.
And Huawei, and if that happened, Huawei would launch a full range of devices around the world using the HTC Desire brand.
Question is, why would Huawei want them? I don't know that Huawei would want them.
Yeah. Huawei kind of has their own thing going on right now, and they're doing a pretty darn good job. This has been a good year for Huawei. So I'm not sure how that would benefit them. He says, hope 2016 will be a great year. Derek, I hope so too. There we go. Thanks for emailing. TNT@twit.tv. Love to bring all you guys on the show at some point. So pitch in. We'll get you in here.
Yeah. So now let's take another minute to thank the third sponsor of this episode. If you are hiring and you're not sure where or how to find the best candidates, as a business owner, your company is only as good as the people you hire. Posting jobs in one place isn't enough to find quality candidates, and short staffing leaves little time to post to dozens of job sites. Thanks to ZipRecruiter.com, you can post to 100 plus job sites with one single click. You can be instantly matched to candidates from over nearly 6 million resumes. You just post once. Within 24 hours, you can watch your candidates roll into ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use interface. ZipRecruiter has been used by over 400,000 businesses, and you can try it now for free. Getting the right people for your company is very important. Here is a testimonial from Scott. He's a happy ZipRecruiter client. He says, the recruiting process used to be so painful. Before I'd post to several places, get 1 million resumes, but only a few responses from qualified candidates. It was torture, but with ZipRecruiter, we post once and get qualified candidates in one easy-to-review place. We've hired some of the best employees using ZipRecruiter. Today, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/TNT. That's ZipRecruiter.com/TNT. And we thank ZipRecruiter for their support of Tech News Today. Now, we heard your predictions, and we, the three of us, have come up with some predictions also. So I will start. What do you think?
Go for it.
Now, this is kind of a prediction. It's kind of like, I hope this will happen, and it's kind of a personal thing for me. But I have been thinking a lot lately about how much time we spend on our phones and our devices, especially when we're at the table or when we're, with family or with friends. And just what is that, Jason?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I got distracted. I'll put this down.
Thank you. And, I don't want to seem like an old person, but I do think that it's doing something to all of us. And, especially young people, they spend so much time. I mean, I have young people of my own that, I'm trying to teach how to live life. And I feel like, talking to people and making mistakes and, asking people out for dates and having them say no to your face is how you become a real person. And without that, I think we're really losing something. And I think that this year people are going to realize that more and sort of see it, and just mediate themselves a little bit. Just limit how much they take out their phone when they're sitting at dinner with their family or with their friends. So I sort of hope that, and I kind of think that. I think that it'll be sort of like smoking that, you used to think it was fine for everybody to do. And then we just sort of realized, hey, like, what is this doing to us? So that is my prediction and hope.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that way too. I know that certain younger generations, it's perfectly, I think it's perfectly fine. Like, I feel like my view is different from some people that I talk to that are younger than me as far as that's concerned. I realize, as a parent, that the more I look at my screen, I'm conveying that message to my kids who are way younger than can possibly, kind of process this to this degree. But I think you're setting a pattern, and as they get older, that kind of. Tom, are you with me?
Well, I'm sorry, I just wanted to Snapchat as part of. I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay. I understand. I was pulled into the same thing as well. I don't know. I agree. I would love to see that. I don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon, but I do feel like it's a snowball right now, and it really feels like there's a lot of distraction, digital distraction.
Yeah, I think we're at peak misuse.
Let's hope we're
at peak smartphone.
Yeah. Definitely.
And I think especially with, because a lot of people spent time with friends and family just recently for holidays. And I think it's worse. I mean, just because it's not, we're out of our regular comfort zone and, and it's just, it's easy. And we're doing fun things. So it's like, let's post about it, so that's my prediction.
Real quick, mine's going to be a quick one because we kind of already talked about it. VR is going to I think is going to be a big deal this year. Like, we know that there's a lot of stuff happening in VR, but we don't know whether it's going to be recognized as, worth the wait. I mean, man, VR has had the quote unquote, this next year is going to be a big year for VR thing for a really long time. This is the first, I feel like this right now is the first time where you've got all of these different players in the scene and all of these different developers actively interested in creating for it. Like, it's a nice kind of convergence of efforts that are going to hopefully reveal an experience that's something that you can get excited for. AR, on the other hand, I don't know. It seems like people are kind of getting disappointed by what they've seen so far. Like, HoloLens looks very interesting on stage. But then you talk to people who have actually experienced it, and they're always kind of like, oh, yeah, actually, HoloLens, da, 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 da. And so I don't know if maybe this is going to be a bigger year for VR than AR.
Well, we're getting VR products,
Yeah,
right? So
right.
I think
It's
you're
actually
right. I think
happening.
that makes it the year of VR, whereas AR, we might get a product by the end of the year. We probably won't, though.
Yeah.
But like Google Cardboard is there was the Mattel thing that was a little bit of AR. Like you could, you could see something as the same time that you could see whatever you were looking at. Do you have that Mattel thing, or are you?
No, I have this one. Is that the same?
Yeah, that's definitely
That's the
serious
cooler
AR.
one.
That's is that your prediction for the year?
Yes, my prediction is the return of the Viewmaster.
Oh, yeah.
What is your
Actually,
prediction?
My prediction is that this will be the year for esports to break into the mainstream. We heard the news earlier today that Activision Blizzard is buying Major League Gaming, which was in trouble. It had huge debts. But all Electronic Arts, Activision Blizzard, bunch of big game makers are really throwing money into esports. Esports events are getting bigger and bigger, more well attended. Prize money's going up. They're having cheating scandals and all of the marks, good or bad, of a maturing sport. So I think this may be the year, especially with Turner Broadcasting, with TBS getting in on doing a league and doing some broadcasting, that we may see it finally. You could argue that it broke into the mainstream with the ESPN special and all the vitriol around that, but I think it will become sort of a sustainable sport that more people enjoy than ever before.
So like steroid scandals are going to be the next, like for my thumbs, building
Yeah.
up.
Ugh, buff thumbs. Yeah. Totally. That actually might inhibit you. Buff thumbs would not be a good thing.
Right.
So let's not do that.
Well, Tom, we already talked about Daily Tech News Show. I know you do lots of other podcasts. Tell us a little bit of the other stuff that you're working on.
Oh, sure. I would normally be doing Cord Killers right now.
Yeah, we got to let you go. I'm sorry.
But no, that's okay. I was happy, and Brian Brushwood my co-host, was nice enough to accommodate, and we pushed it an hour or so because I really wanted to do this with you guys.
Thank you.
But if you're into cord cutting and want to know about TV and movies that you can watch without having to have a cable subscription, or even if you have a cable subscription, you just want to know what your supplementary options are, our show is about letting you figure out what to watch, when to watch it, where to watch it, on what device to watch it. So check it out, cordkillers.com.
It's spoilering time. Did you spoil all of Star Wars? It looks like you probably did.
We had a big special with a bunch of folks on. It was really fun.
Excellent. Tom, such a pleasure getting you on. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh, man, I am 100% honored. I'm so excited that Tech News Today is in good hands still. You guys are going to do great with this, and I'm really pleased and excited to see what you guys do.
Oh, thanks, man. All right, dailytechnewsshow.com to follow Tom and, all the other shows that he does. He does a lot. So thanks again, Tom.
You bet.
Tomorrow's guest is Lindsay Turrentine, actually another person that I podcasted with in the past. CNET.com's editor-in-chief will be joining us for tomorrow's episode. Talk all about tech. Megan, we did it. High five.
We did it, yeah.
Throw it to me. Excellent. All right. Don't forget. Thank you. Don't forget, you can be a part of the show by emailing us at tnt@twit.tv or leaving us a short voicemail at 260-TNT-SHOW. Tech News Today records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 12 a.m. UTC at twit.tv/live, with a recorded episode hitting the feeds and tubes later that evening. Just look for our home on the web. That's twit.tv/TNT. That's all we wrote. Thanks for talking tech with us, and we will see you all tomorrow. Bye, you guys.
Bye-bye.
All right, we survived.